you're looking eyes to eyes. You are actually looking at them, and they're actually looking at you. So the exercise is to raise sensation, raise energy into your hands on your subject and see how much they're giving you. So you're looking at them, you see their face, you see their expression. You don't have to be stoic. In fact, we do not care for being stoic. You can respond with your face, with your sound, and I will keep monitoring the energy, walking back and forth.
In the human condition, being born is the first wound that is inflicted upon us. No one is born by choice. That's a choice made for you by someone else. So a lot of my work starts with family units, whether that's like chosen family, queer family, community, or biological family, birth family. I do a lot of work with my family's archives, and I work with my relationship to my parents and my siblings a lot, and I work with my relationships to what I would consider my queer family members, people I've known for years and have had various degrees of intimacies with, romantic friendships. Yeah, people that really kind of mark my own personhood in the world. I think those are just as important as those family marks, those family wounds. I do think that the ways in which we recreate family dynamics in our adult partnerships, in queer communities, in chosen families, are directly, referenced by those biological family wounds. In a way that we seek to sort of heal those wounds, we usually just recreate them and play them out in different ways. I'm always sort of trying to just pick those scabs.
I was like, oh no, Dad cracked. I saw that overlight.
No, I'm not allowed to either, apparently.
He cracked under pressure. Why? Did you just open one?
Oh no, I asked for one. Asked how many there were. Captain didn't want me to fall off the wagon, I guess.
I mean, a lot of my work is really motivated by this sort of concept of what is the barrier between inside and outside, and how do we define that barrier? And for humans, there's a lot of discomfort that comes with approaching that barrier. And we're conditioned in our world to have less discomfort with the visible barriers, so eyes, nose, mouth, and more discomfort with the barriers that are not seen daily. And so that's certainly something I like to pick at a little bit. I don't think of my work as confrontational in the way that I'm, I'm not trying to shock anyone, but I am trying to draw attention to this inconsistency. There's an antithetical there that doesn't really make sense if we break it down. How is an anus different from an eye? In this instance, the eyelids would become very important, because when two sets of eyelids approach each other for the first time, this is the first crisis of human contact. So the lids are the first boundary you approach that divide what's inside of each of you. Our entire process of moving forward in this world is about the ways in which we try and fail or try and succeed to fill that hole, and the amount of time for which that hole can actually truly feel filled. Because that fullness is very transient. And I think that when I'm thinking through affect in my films, I want my films in particular to feel very effective and emotive. And I don't mean emotive in a sappy way or in a melodramatic way or in a way that is about creating a false sense of emotion. But I want those projects to poke at what that fullness might feel like, and to give my audience a sense just for a moment of what it might feel like to be full, just for a second.
How do you draw a tremble? How do you say, I am embarrassed of who I am? There's a word in German that means to be embarrassed for someone, but with a deep sense of sorrow and care for them. I don't know what it is.
Most of the work still has its home kind of in the idea of cinema. The serial comes up again, the diptych, the triptych, the text, the need for language to build out and also for work to be cumulative. Part of what makes it filmic is the accumulation and the act of moving through. For me, it's important to have multiple points of entry to the work. One of the ways I do that is like with idiosyncratics in my own brain space, nerd space, whatever. A lot of my work involves science fiction references and fantasy references and places where fantasy and science fiction sort of like intersect with queerness or intersects with sexuality or pornography or archival materials.
And now, BTS brings the world to you with the 1982 World's Fair from Knoxville, Tennessee. In the next 3 hours, BTS will take you on a tour of the fair to show the customs and technologies of many lands. The theme of Expo 82 is Energy Turns the World. Energy touches every aspect of life.
Part of what is really compelling to me is this construction of truth. The way truth is constructed and then the porousness of it. Because a film like The Source as a whole, you're being kind of moved through a series of love letters, for lack of better descriptor. And you're being sort of having this character who is being played by my voice cultivate this idea of loss and longing. And then at a moment in the film, there's a sort of direct address that's like, oh, I'm actually the perpetrator this whole time. I had you thinking I was the survivor. And there's no actual perpetration that takes place in the film or in the reality of the film, but there is this idea that, like, why are you forming certain ideas about me based off only this information you've been given? And I mean, part of that is construction of character and construction of, like, self as character, which happens in Bigger on the Inside also. I did a Q&A recently, and they were like, so you're in this cabin in the woods. I was like, I was never in a cabin in the woods. It's a narrative construction. And so, there's a lot of, I don't think that truth is a given, and I encourage my viewers to also question, what they're seeing and experiencing. The idea of thinking through how do we transform and grow and move, like that's interesting to me, but not with an end result of to be better, to be different, to be superior to what we are now. I don't gravitate towards an ideal when I think about these ideas that seek to imagine another way.